Was there ever a doubt?
Yes.
Was there ever a doubt?
Yes, there was.
As I said from the jump, I was real comfortable last week. Excited for the USC UCLA game, man. And there was never. I was cool the whole time, man. Alec tried to act like they actually had a chance in that game, and y'all put a good fight. Hey, listen, for ratings, y'all stayed in the game. We appreciate you guys. Hey, listen, for ratings and all that, y'all stayed in the game a little bit, and we appreciate you guys putting them a valiant fight, and keeping the game interesting. Last year, y'all blew us out and all that, and folks tuned out in the fourth quarter and all that. So we had to get the excitement back up and all of that. It was supposed to be a big game, so to live up to the hype. We made sure you guys stayed in it a little bit, but in the end, there was never a doubt, man. I was comfortable. I was very comfortable.
It's a nasty narrative you try to paint.
It's not even a narrative. I'm telling you what it is. You all saw all week. I had the USC stuff on the bed before. I had the shirt on. I had the fingers going. Everything. I was cool and calm and all of that. There was never a doubt in my mind, and they wouldn't get the job done. So USC did what they had to do. Very excited about that. We'll have a quick discussion about that as we jump back into things. Sorry for the quick jump into everything, but we'll dive more into that, as well as all the things going on in the NFL. Week 11 was a fun one. A lot of things going on there with our teams in LA, my Ravens included, and all of that. Talk about have our Him Zone segment and some other things going on as well. So excited to be back. Clearly, a lot of stuff going on. Holidays are here. Excited for Thanksgiving. Excited for Christmas. All that good stuff. Appreciate you guys tuning back in. Follow us online everywhere. IG, TikTok, Section.300, Twitter, Section of the Sports. It's your boy G with Alec. Let's get to it, man. Let's get to it. So I don't want to start with the game. I want to circle back to it for a reason. I'll tell you in a minute. But in short, UCLA, as we discussed, and USC had their big matchup last week. USC came out victorious, only winning by 3, as Alec pointed out, and it definitely was a fun game. Start to finish. We can get into the details in a moment, which we'll do. But since we have the result already, I wanted to jump forward for a moment as we prepare for upcoming week. There's a lot of talk about the playoffs and all of that. Do you think that USC now getting this victory, they're now ranked 6th in the standings? Can USC crack the top 4 and make a playoff this year?
I think it's very viable at this point. Like, they have to win the Pac-12 championship game. Yeah, got to beat Notre Dame this week too, which is the first step. But
I'll be in attendance.
Okay, dope. But winning both those games absolutely should put them in contention. Michigan and Ohio State are going to have to play each other. So one of those teams is going to have at least one loss. I think they're both undefeated currently.
You're right.
But one of them is probably going to fall just a little bit with having that loss. So I think it'll put them in contention. TCU, I don't know if they hold on to that 4 spot in the playoff as well. So I think if USC handles business in the next 2 games, they have a real good shot at making the playoff.
Yeah, TCU is holding on for dear life right now. LSU and USC, I believe, have impressive games coming up that if they win, will be better arguments. But TCU has been looking good so far. Had a great win last week versus Baylor, I think, last second victory that they held on to. So definitely want to commend them for it. But yeah, if
I'll Michigan, say the UCLA win is huge for USC too, because you guys hadn't beat a ranked opponent all season until then. So that's big also for the strength of schedule in the end.
I think there's a few teams that we did beat that fell out of top 25. So yeah, but I was just saying, like in the moment right now, I'm having a team of that height, having a victory like that definitely was needed. So yeah, definitely proud about that. And then 2, what we were saying about the rankings, if Michigan and Ohio State have a game like we did where it's close all the way through, they both might hold on to that spot. But if LSU loses to Georgia, I think they play Georgia coming up, USC can jump ahead of them in that regard. And then TCU, I forgot about their schedule. My apologies. But if USC does what they need to do, they'll put themselves in a good position to get that 4th spot. And I believe they should get it. If If LSU doesn't beat Georgia, which I don't believe they will, and if Michigan and Ohio State don't have a game like we did, and there's a gap that's clear, that'll give room for somebody else to take one of those spots, and I believe USC should be in there. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. And with that, there's a lot of talk about Caleb Williams. Do you think he's deserving of the Heisman?
Yeah, I mean, I think that game against UCLA certainly skyrockets his chances. I mean, I think he can make all the throws. He's shifty. He's already getting Patrick Mahomes comparison, which might slow down a little bit, but he is very impressive and was very impressive in the UCLA game. That was like the major takeaway for me from that game was that he's certainly going to be playing on Sundays, and he's certainly special, like more than a couple of the other guys, even to me, like the Bryce Youngs or CJ Strouds. I think he has a little bit more of the it factor, whatever you determine it is. So yeah, I mean, I think it's between those couple guys. I know there's a couple running backs that have been really good this year, between like Bijan Robinson as well.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think he should be, if not the front runner, right there.
He had a lot of hype, and I agree with you that there's already a lot of comparisons and things that might be a little too, might be a little premature and all of that. But you see the talent there, so you get why there's hype either way. And yeah, he needed a signature performance, and I think he finally got that on last Saturday. So thank you guys for that. Much appreciated again. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he could do. And yeah, I think that also circling back to our first thing, having a Heisman on your team might help a little bit in the voting. Like, hey, they're a borderline top 5 team, but for ratings, we have a Heisman here also. Let's bump them up to make sure we have our Heisman in the top 4, so we can show off what talent he has there. So yeah, definitely believe that he's deserving of it. I'm excited to see if he can achieve that. So yeah, fun things with USC ahead. Excited for it all. We don't do a whole lot of college breakdowns, but with the magnitude of how things have gone recently, we want to talk about it. And yeah, I want to circle back to something, but I'll let you go real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, lastly, I was going to say I'd love to see USC match up with Georgia.
Oh yeah, that'd be a fun one. We'll talk about that when it gets here.
I love that.
I won't make any predictions about that. I'll just say I'll wait till it happens. Until then, as we talked about, there's a lot of discussion. We were tweeting the whole game during the USC UCLA game, and I want to break it down by using this comparison to another team that we talk about a whole lot here in LA. We follow the Chargers a whole lot. Chargers played the Chiefs on Sunday. It was a very solid game. Watching the Chargers-Chiefs game, was there ever a doubt that Mahomes was going to find a way at the end to win that game?
No.
And the same way you had the confidence in that game, I believe the USC was going to win that game no matter what on set last Saturday night. Like, it just appeared
that's more of you being a USC fan, though, than like actual.
Well, seeing the hype of seeing the difference between Caleb Williams and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and the challenges across the board with both teams, I thought there was enough of a gap there that they would make the necessary adjustments to win the game however needed on Saturday. So that was where my confidence came from, and that's why I kept saying y'all had a nice first quarter. We appreciate you guys for putting up that valiant effort. But even in that, there were missed opportunities where it showed that USC could fight back, and they did just that and then held on. So I mean,
it's easy to say now that it ended that way. Like you can't live in ifs and buts, but like, if they score on that last drive, then you can't use that argument. So like,
I didn't believe they were going to score on that last drive.
That's what I'm saying. But there's no like basis for that. That's just how you feel because you're a USC fan. But
well, we'll use the game again. There are opportunities that UCLA missed in that game. There are opportunities that USC found ways to fight back in the game. As we saw, of course, they won the game. So seeing some of the conversions early throughout the game that USC was making, there are a few times when UCLA, you guys were breaking away again. And I think in like the third quarter, I think there was one play, it was 3rd and something, and Caleb Williams scrambled out and found the guy down the sideline and made a miraculous catch. And there were just plays that USC was making to stay in the game, and that would eventually get the lead in the game that told me that they were going to find a way to hold on to this victory, even with the valiant effort that UCLA was putting forth. It was a game where I believe that everything had to go right for UCLA to win the game, and USC had to make mistakes. And early on, USC made mistakes. Once they fixed those things, UCLA didn't continue that perfect game needed to stay ahead. And
sure.
that to me was the difference. And then as we saw in the final drive, Dorian, as valiant of effort as he put up on the leading up to that point, threw a pick because he misread an assignment based on a great coverage adjustment that the defense made. So I thought little things like that showed throughout the game that let me know that, hey, as I kept tweeting at you, I'm in bed cozy. Like, I feel like this team was gonna make sure that they got this W.
I don't know. That doesn't feel 100% genuine, but I hear what you're saying as far as like the Chiefs Chargers comparison, like Mahomes and versus Herbert and that team. Like, ultimately, we feel like it's gonna be a close game, but Mahomes is gonna win it no matter what.
Everything has to go right for the Chargers to win that game. They thought for most of that game and all of that. But once Mahomes had the ball with wherever that was, a minute left in the fourth, it was like, all right, bro. Like, go ahead.
USC doesn't have that proven track record that Mahomes does.
They don't. Like, which is why to y'all it was a hot take and all that, and you were always saying you didn't believe me.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's not a 1-to-1 comparison.
It's not a perfect comparison, but just using that as another game that we saw recently, where it was clear that there was a better team even in the close matchup. I believe that USC, even as close of a matchup as it was, I thought that they had room to make mistakes and still bounce back and get right, while UCLA had to be perfect, and UCLA was not perfect in that whole game, and USC took advantage of it in the end and got the W. So that's
I think ultimately, like, what lost them the game was the turnovers, because, like,
of course,
you said like DTR had a gutsy performance, like he had 6 combined touchdowns himself, but it's ultimately the interceptions that were crucial. Like, of course, the last one, but like the first 2 also were bad interceptions, like where USC had good coverage and like tried to fit a ball in and that wasn't necessarily there. So yeah, I felt like ultimately it came down to not taking care of the football. Like, because if they had, like, I don't think they lose this game if he doesn't throw 2 of those 3 interceptions.
Sure.
And like that goes to saying like they had to be perfect. Like,
yeah, I think we're saying the same thing at this point. So still I do want to commend them. I do like Dorian a whole lot. I think he has a lot of upside still. I guess to our comparison of other games, he very much could be the Herbert to Williams's Mahomes, if there's that comparison there, just for the sake of the 2 games we just brought up. But yeah, there's still is some room for him to improve, and I'm excited to see how he continues to make that leap. And yeah, just again, I enjoyed that game all the way through. I love the back and forth we had throughout the game. We have finding some more games coming up to tweet about as they go on, and yeah, I'm excited to see how both these programs go forward. So yeah, great stuff there. Good stuff with the Chargers in
one last thing.
And yeah, go ahead.
One last thing with UCLA, like for the UCLA fans out there, because I know like they're very upset, but not only just from losing USC, but also losing to Arizona the week before. It seems like UCLA, I thought this is where you're going to go with the Chargers comparison. They have a similar thing to the Chargers where like they kind of fold at the very end of the season. Like, even when expectations start to rise, it seems like they fold when they get that opportunity to finally get over that hump to be in playoff contention. Like 2 weeks ago, they were number 12 in the college playoff contention. Now they're like 18 because they lost to a bad by record Arizona team and then lost to a good USC team. But it's like, I don't know what they need to do, because Chip Kelly brought him in and he struggled for several seasons and finally had a good one. But
I guess to the same comparisons as the Chargers, Chip Kelly is very much like Brandon Staley. It's like he has a lot of promise and upside. You see what the peak might be, but he rarely ever actually gets there, and usually he goes the opposite way when needed most. So we could see changes in both those programs in regards to the Chargers and the Bruins coming up if things aren't fixed immediately. So
both teams got to get their defenses together. I can say that for sure. But
absolutely.
Yeah, might not be. Yeah. I know people were mad about the field goal timeout thing as well. I don't blame the loss on that, but you know. Yeah.
There are a lot of things that could be nitpicked in those games to decide that could have changed the course of it all, but they ended up going as it did, and we'll see how they fix things going forward. So yeah, there'll be fun things there. But yeah, now going forward, back to the Chargers that we kind of discussed. We said they lost to the Chiefs. There's still clearly a gap between the two of them. we thought it'd be a little bit closer in regards to that race, but they're now 5-5, and second in the AFC West, and still fighting for a wild card spot in the playoffs. What would it take for them to truly get over the hump, though? Not just being a playoff team, but being a true elite NFL squad.
Yeah, I think other than the health, which obviously for every team, if you're healthy, that's optimal. But beyond that, I think it's fixing this defense, which this defense was supposed to be elite coming into the season. Like they had, that's part of why they had such high Super Bowl hype, is because the defense was supposed to help carry the load for the Chargers and Justin Herbert. And Staley, I believe, comes from a defensive background, so he was like supposed to help with that. And their defense has mightily struggled, and part of that is health too on that side of the ball. But I think shoring up the defense and then moving on from Keenan Allen, like we talked about, and looking for another wide receiver one type of player. I think they have Mike Williams on contract for another season. So he'll still be there, but I don't think you can move him to your number one spot with how inconsistent he can be. Other guys have stepped up, but I think they're wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type guys in Palmer and Carter. So, yeah.
I brought this up to you off air. I don't know how it worked this year because obviously you still have Allen and Williams there, even if they're somewhat hobbled. But I know he already has what other options he's looking at. I'd like to see Odell on this Charger squad. I'm not going to lie. I think that could be a very good fit. And for a guy that's looking for a long-term place, if Allen is out the way shortly, and Mike Williams might be out the way shortly as well, him sliding into the 1 or 2 spot alongside Carter and Palmer, who, as you said, have shown they could be wide receiver 2, 3 in that offense. I think him being the new go-to for Odell for Herbert would be a nice look. So with all the talk about where he might end up, just wanted to throw his name out there because I was like, wow, I think him wanted to be in LA but couldn't figure it out with the Rams, and the Rams falling apart. We'll get to them in a minute. Wanted to be on a team that has upside and a long-term solution. I think the Chargers could still be on the way up in the next 2 or 3 years as he wants to sign a contract for. And that could be a real nice spot for him to be in. So yeah, I don't know if he's looking at that like that because he wants also to be on a team that's winning this year. But I would like to see that a whole lot. So yeah, we'll see what he decides. But they definitely need to figure that out with those receivers, just getting them healthy and all of that, because Herbert has shown that he can get you to a point, but he needs somebody he can turn to really make that next step. So we'll see how they fix that.
Yeah. I think, because we talked about Staley before, and if he was on the hot seat or not, obviously, like it's going to be a question once again. If they miss the playoffs, it seems like it's leaning towards he'll get fired.
If they miss the playoffs, he's for sure gone. It appears that way. I think even from somewhat, I think after our Corey interview, I started following a lot of Chargers things and all of that. Just seeing from Chargers fans and stuff online and all of that, they are on the brink with Brandon with Staley right now. So if he somehow misses on the playoffs again this year, I think he'll for sure be out. And if he even gets in and then has a nasty first game and they lose in the first round, it still might be in question for him. So yeah, they really have to show some promise the rest of the season, which I believe they can do. But as we said about them with the UCLA type comparisons, whatever, they always seem to get in their own way. So hopefully it's not the same thing this time around.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very tense things going on with the Chargers. And then on the other side, just very sad things going on with the Rams. The Rams have completely fallen apart. Lost to the Saints as we both predicted. While it was technically somewhat close, 27-20. Yeah, Matt Stafford got knocked out that game again. And following that, Darrell Henderson got released. Kyron Williams has shown promise, so that's been nice. Cam Akers is back in the fold, I guess, so they'll both be man in the backfield. But with Stafford out and potentially being put on IR is what I heard as a rumor. Kupp already being out. Yeah, this season, as we had been questioning for a while, we can stamp now that the season is over. So what would you like to see next from this Rams squad?
We talked about last week as far as rebuilding versus retooling and a little bit pre-show. Like it's questionable for me whether they should stick with the Stafford Kupp connection, because it clearly was a Super Bowl winning one when they had offensive line intact, and they had Odell there too.
My bad. Just to add this in as well, just to guess to add on, just got notification that Sean Robinson, who's a D tackle for the Rams, is out for the season with the torn meniscus as well. So there's just injuries all across the board. Everybody's falling apart. So
and that's my concern with like the injuries and the age of these players who are getting hurt too. It seems like you might want to move towards a rebuild, but if they're doing that, that would also, I feel like, mean that Sean McVay would be done with them, because there was already question whether or not he would come back this year. Like there was already talk of early retirement for him, and I think he didn't retire because he felt like this team still could compete for a championship.
Him and Donald were like, hey, let's run it back, and they had all high hopes and everything. But
exactly. So if they go towards rebuild, like Donald, we talked about, should you retain Donald or trade him? He may retire too. Like you may not have Donald or McVay with a full rebuild. So I don't like. There's going to be a lot of questions to answer there, like in this offseason, with Kupp going down, with Stafford going down, with Odell still being up in the air where he's going to go,
right?
And him still wanting a home. I mean, because I'm not a Rams fan, so I don't really have a desire one way or the other what they do.
I was going to point that out. We've kind of leaned more into Rams discussions, but we're kind of neutral on Rams and Chargers. So yeah, we just hope they do well because we're both out here. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like if they still want to compete, I feel like you probably, for now, you retain Stafford and Kupp and seek to build the offensive line, but it might be time to go for a full rebuild just with how they're breaking down.
And I want to point this out too, because though we don't have a first round pick this year compared to maybe, I guess, the last couple, though there have been good quarterbacks that popped up, this appears to be a better quarterback class recently. So with that being the case, while Stafford does still, if we get a line, Stafford could be the guy again. Also looking more long term, if there's a way to somehow sacrifice one of the, as we talked about, one of our core five, to get a first round pick that could be a quarterback that they can possibly turn to for the future, I wouldn't be mad at that. So I think that should be something that they look at. And with how this season is continuing to fall apart, we might hear growing conversation about that as things go along. So definitely something to definitely keep note of. So yeah, interesting things going on there. So yeah, that's really it for the Rams right now. Yeah, that's really it for the Rams. So that's it for all the LA sports things and for football going on right now. Moving on to one more individual team. We talked about, I'm a big Ravens fan. I opposed to the neutrality I have of LA sports squads. Definitely love the Ravens still, and they are still finding their way. They barely got by the Panthers, beat them 13-3, but they are first in the AFC North. They're now 7-3. The defense does look very good. They held the Panthers to 3 points. But the offense continues to be just all over the place. They cannot get that in sync whatsoever. I guess I'll ask this though, even alongside that, though the offense has been a mess, Lamar has found ways when needed most to put a point on the board. And to make sure that this team gets the wins. As we said, we're 7-3. I guess in long form, getting long-winded for a second. Last year, there was a talk. There was all the games we had the last minute where we folded and lost games and all of that. We're doing better this year, clearly, at closing out games. We started off ugly. They're early on. We had the same situations, but since then, we definitely have just continued to impose our will, at least when needed most, which I've been glad to see. So with that, though he has had his struggles, should Lamar get more MVP consideration right now?
Personally, I don't believe so, because the statistics haven't been there for him. And really the performances haven't been great since about week 4 or the first 3 weeks he was on MVP level tear, obviously.
Right.
Then he dropped off, had a decent game against Tampa Bay. Like that was the last good one I'd say he's had. The others have kind of been struggles, and he's figured out ways to get the job done and get the W's. As you said, they're 7-3.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say there was that one game, I forgot which week it was, where we said the Ravens lost but Lamar won, or the Ravens won but Lamar lost. I forgot which game that was. It was 4 or 5 weeks in. whenever
Yeah,
that
other
was,
than the Bengals one.
I
Yeah.
think it was the Bengals game. Ever since then, it's all kind of been at least somewhat downhill. So I
Yeah,
see what you're saying.
it's been kind of shaky. And
Yeah.
I think he is maybe the most valuable player to any team in the NFL because he keeps them afloat and he keeps them in games and wins games still with the limited talent on the roster currently with the injuries. But I don't think his measurables, like his statistics, are up to par with the guys who are leading the MVP race, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Tua, Hurts, those guys. So I don't think he should be higher in the MVP race, like maybe somewhere in the top 10 or so, but not like top 3 guy or anything
I
like
think right now he's fifth. He's like top 5, but like right
that.
at 5.
Okay. So
So
that's even higher than I would have him right now personally, but that's justifiable because he is keeping this team. Without him, like another quarter, I don't think Tua can do what he's doing with this
right.
Ravens team. Or
No.
like Mahomes, maybe. Like I wouldn't put it past Mahomes, but other than that, like I can't see any other quarterback doing what Lamar is doing with this team.
Agreed. So yeah, if we're going based on value to a team, if it's truly valuable, then
Yeah.
sure, he definitely is potentially a top 3 guy. But based on full performance and numbers as this game is about, yeah, he hasn't put up MVP performances just yet. So I still believe he has chances to do that. It's a long season, as we said. There's only 10. We're 10 games in. They still got like 7 more to go. Excuse me. So he definitely has a lot of opportunities. He had also the Ravens, I think the rest of the way, have the second easiest schedule in the NFL.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of games where he can take advantage of. So if he puts up some great performances, he surely will get some more praise. But yeah, right now, I wouldn't say, though I asked you, I don't think he deserves more. I think that top 5 where he's at is enough. So yeah, fun things going on with the Ravens there. Excited to see how things continue to go forward.
You'd probably be thankful to have Bateman and Marquise Brown right now.
Like, oh yeah, hey, but it didn't work out because of the offensive scheme and whatever. So it is what it is, and again, we'll see how they adjust. But back to the MVP discussion. A couple of days ago, it was announced that they updated the MVP voting. Instead of the voters getting an individual vote for one guy, they now have I guess a ranking they can do.
Rank them,
yeah, for who they could pick. And with that being the case, there's also been discussions. Micah Parsons and others have talked about guys outside of the quarterback position being involved. So what would it take, or is it possible now for a non-quarterback to win MVP?
I think it's always been possible. It's just very, very difficult because quarterback is the most impactful position on the field, regardless of how you feel. Like the quarterback is the hardest job on the field, and the second hardest is probably like corner or something like that. But it's the most impactful and the most challenging position. So QBs are probably going to get the most love in MVP voting, especially when they're playing at very high rates and impacting winning as they do. But you see guys like Saquon or Derrick Henry or Cooper Kupp last year who are the true engines of their offense that deserve like credit for what they do. And I feel like they get the acknowledgement with Offensive Player of the Year. But as far as MVP, like at this point, it seems like they have to do something historically great, like Russell Westbrook, like averaging a triple-double and winning MVP as the 6th seed. Like you have to do something like breaking a record. You have to be the 1st seed. You have to be extremely dominant if you're not a quarterback to get the MVP. I don't know what the last non-quarterback MVP was in the NFL.
Off the top of the head, I couldn't even tell you that either. I was trying to think back a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to pull it up.
I was trying to pull it up. Yeah. Yeah. So the last non-quarterback to win the MVP was Adrian Peterson in 2012. And that was when he had over 2,000 yards rushing. And I think the record holder for rush yards in a season is Eric Dickerson with 2,105. So I think Derrick Henry would have to break that record, and like the Titans would have to be like the 1 seed overall in the AFC in order to get it. And maybe that's not fair because you don't have to necessarily break a record to be the NFL MVP as a quarterback, but it makes sense when like QB is like the most impactful typically towards winning.
Yeah, I'm trying to just think. I guess think out loud. I'm like, how would you flip that? Would you make just a quarterback award and make the MVP something out that counts a different way? Or I think as it is, it just has to be. It just is what it is, and the quarterback being as valuable as it is, just it's the reality that guys have to acknowledge. So,
because like maybe you could say like Aaron Donald should have had one at some point with him like consistently being ranked the best player in the league, but like I feel like the Rams would have to have like a historic year of defense as well for him to get it. Like for a defensive player to get an MVP.
I guess what they could potentially do then that might be interesting is, you know how they have like before the season every year, they have the player vote for like best player of the last year, like the top 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
They could do like a player voted best player in the league, something like that. Mm-hmm. So instead of just giving it straight to quarterbacks, players could, like Micah Parsons has a bunch of guys that people believe Micah Parsons was the best player this year. You can give it to Micah Parsons or whatever. And I think that ranking could suffice, because MVP is going to end up being what it is. But if they can find another award or something like that to acknowledge them, I think that would do it. Because as good as Micah Parsons is, it's like
that's why you have Defensive Player of the Year, though.
Yeah, and it's like even in that case, like Micah Parsons has been great all season long. But when Dak went down, we saw the difference in that team because of the lack of the quarterback.
Right.
So it's like the quarterback, it just sadly it just is what it is. That they're the most valuable, and you said they just have to acknowledge that as the case. So we'll see how things go forward. Micah and all these other guys that have been putting up great performances definitely deserve acknowledgement, and they'll get that in other ways. But for the MVP race, things will go as they do. So be it. But definitely fun things to keep watching there as we go forward. I guess I'll ask this: what guys do you have outside of QB in MVP type race this year? And what guys could you see potentially as MVP that aren't quarterbacks right now?
Yeah, non-QB for me would be Derrick Henry. It'd be Saquon. It would be Micah. I'm trying to think if there's a wide receiver, maybe Tyreek Hill, like you said.
I think Tyreek Hill for sure. That was the first thing on my list.
Yeah, because Tyreek's been dominant. Like the other guys that are usually like in Defensive Player of the Year contention, their teams aren't doing as well. Like TJ Watt and he's been hurt.
Yeah, no. Justin Jefferson maybe, because we saw him get neutralized against the Cowboys and how that depleted that team to how they fell apart versus them. So maybe he's in there as well. But
Nick Bosa, like that 49ers defense is good.
Yeah, definitely saw some other guys that deserve some praise. But in comparison, you say Jefferson or Mahomes, like Mahomes is getting time. I don't know what to tell you. So it just is what it is. But excited to see how things go forward. And just definitely some fun award races. We're already past the halfway point, but we might come back next week. We're going to revisit our team rankings and all of that. We might sneak in some power rank. We might sneak in some award picks as we are just over the midway point of the season. So then we want to just get back to that. And excited to see how things go forward. But to our HIMVP rankings and that kind of stuff, we're back for the Him Zone. A lot of good stuff happened in week 11. Excited to get to it all. As we've been doing, changing up the flow of it all. Starting up with our not HIMVP. There were some bad performances, I believe, that we saw this week. So I'm excited to see Alec, who you got for not HIMVP this week.
Yeah, took a couple weeks off from hating on too many guys, but I got a full list this week on Zach Wilson is probably the leader of the pack, 77 yards.
Had to be.
And he doubled down with a horrible performance in the post-game press conference.
Might have been even worse than his play on the field.
just an all-time horrible job of public relations right there. Just handling that question with an immediate no when asked if he let his defense down. It was just it was all-time bad look for a young QB. And then just I think in the second half they had 2.7 inches of offense per play. It was just I know that Belichick has a great defensive schemes and is great against young QBs, but it was another level of bad. And he also blamed his performance on like the wind and stuff too. When Mac Jones completed like 80% of his passes in the same games, it was all bad for Zach, and he got benched. So
he's not been benched because of that. The rest of the team wasn't happy. It's interesting because we sit in the media reaction. It's all Garrett Wilson had a little bit of a response that people were talking about, and people were like, "Oh, how is Zach going to apologize to Garrett?" But I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other guys in the building that didn't have newsworthy quotes that were staring at him just as mad that he had to answer to. And clearly he didn't give the right responses because Saleh sat him down, and now he's going to be playing Mike White, I think, next week versus I forgot who they're playing, but he'll be starting. So it is what it is. As a QB, you have to know that you're a leader of men, especially in the NFL. You get to know that there are guys that are falling onto you, as we just discussed, as the most valuable position on teams. You have to understand that there is going to be, when things go bad, you got to take the blame for that, and when things go good, you can relish it and all of that. But you have to understand the weight that comes with where you're at, and he hasn't seemed to fully grasp that. He has some things to learn there, and he's learning the hard way right now. So. We'll see how he bounces back in the future. But definitely some nasty work from him last week.
Very nasty work. Just the throws he was missing, guys in the flats too. It was bad. Baker Mayfield, we already knew he's not him, but he showed us once again. 196 yards, 2 picks against your Ravens. Like you said, the defense has been a lot better, and Baker had no shot against that defense. So I don't know if he gets another opportunity in another team, but I feel like I've seen it all I need to see with him.
He's not helping himself at all. Yeah. And then there was the other thing too. You saw that clip. I don't think it was this week. It was like last week. He was trying to hype up the team. He was like that helmet on. And as fans, that used to be impressive. Like that's a great early 2000s.
Himself a concussion.
But today it's like, bro, like you're gonna bash your head open. I think one guy reacted like, "What are you doing?" Like, like chill out. Yeah, it's just things are not going as hoped at all for him over there. It's been a sad, I guess, career now for him. So, oh well. But nasty.
Yep. Third on here, I got Kirk Cousins.
I was hoping you put him on here.
Yeah, it looked like he was having one of those games like Sam Darnold had against the Pats, where he said he was seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was in hell against that Cowboys defense. I know he had a couple offensive linemen who were down in that game too, but Cowboys defense tore that ass up. And
I guess I'll lob this to you. We asked a couple weeks ago when they signed with TJ Hawkinson, and they had some good games after that they looked like they could be a serious threat. And now they had the game that they did. Was this game proof that they are frauds, or it was just they just got caught off guard?
I'll do you one better. Number 5 on here, I had the Vikings as a
the whole team on there.
I said Vikings as a whole are frauds in all caps. So I'll answer with a resounding yes. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. They've still been winning games, so I couldn't pound the drum too loud. But the schedule has been a little bit light so far, and when they've come against good competition, they got smacked by the Eagles, and then they got dominated, dog walked from start to finish against the Cowboys. So
then I guess to clarify to you, what is a fraud? Or what does a fraud mean in regards to them?
For them, like, I think they'll have regular season success because the schedule is a little bit lighter than other teams, but I think they're a first round exit.
Got it. I'm fine with that. Just wanted to clarify. So that works for me. I didn't have high hopes for them either. I just acknowledged the one that they were on, and now they've came back to earth, and we see what they really are, and it is what it is. So
if somehow the Eagles and Vikings match up, then of course one of them has to win. But those are the two teams I see as like major frauds in the NFC. So
the Eagles also.
Eagles too. Yep. They're good. They got weapons, but I don't think they're as good as the record shows right now.
I'm not mad at that, to be honest with you. I'm not mad at that.
If they got to see the Cowboys again, I'm going with the Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah. And then lastly on here, I didn't really want to pile on, but Melvin Gordon, he got released. He had another fumble. It's been rough this season with taking care of the ball, and he's not on a roster now. So it's looking like it's the end of his road.
and end of the road, and he made a joke on the way out, like him in the OJ bus with the OJ Bronco with the cops behind him.
No. I missed that. He made a joke about that.
Yeah, he like propped himself into the Bronco that OJ was in. With all the fans on him saying, "These are the fans chasing me out." He's like, "I gotta get one last laugh with you guys on the way out the door." Ooh. And yeah, it just swing and a miss.
Joke. Yeah, that's
yeah. You leave the Bronco, you leave the OJ jokes alone. So nasty stuff. So because of that last point, I'm giving him the MVP for my vote as well. It was just nasty, but the Vikings definitely deserve some acknowledgement for their snap back to reality, I guess what we'll call it, versus the Cowboys last week. So some sad stuff there. So good stuff on your end. We'll come back to MVP at the end. Sure. But real quick, my things for best play definitely were some fun ones. 2 were very impressive returns. The first one, Cordell Patterson had a 100-yard TD kick return. I think that's his 9th in his career. The jersey's been going to the Hall of Fame. I think he's the first person to have TD kick returns on like 4 teams or whatever like that, something like that. Or something like he has some kind of record. He has 9. That's already praised. And then for the number of teams he's done it on, there are a few records he broke in doing that. So
he's second only to Devin Hester for me.
Yeah, so they're right there. So and I'd say all around, I don't want to. I shouldn't do this, but all around, I think Cordell has passed Devin Hester as a player. Showing what he's done out of the backfield and things. Devin Hester was a great return, but couldn't quite figure it out in between the lines in regards to as a receiver and things. He didn't have quite the performances that we've seen from Cordero, who was damn near a top running back last year with his performances on the Falcons, and has still been pretty solid this year when he's been healthy too. So definitely salute to him for how he's continued to maintain his career, both in return game and beyond. And then back to the returns, another great one to our point about Zach Wilson and the Jets. They lost that game. It was 3-3 with 10 seconds left. They stopped the Jets yet again. Jets kick a punt. And Marcus Jones returns a punt down the field for a touchdown. You don't often see those punt return touchdown game winners like that. Right. Definitely want to salute him for that. And then what it also meant for that Jet squad was Zach Wilson and all of that. So definitely was a tough dagger there from him. So salute him to that. And then to some days, one of the guys you mentioned as a potential non-QB MVP, Derrick Henry had a nice play where they did a fake dive to him, where they gave him the ball, and he ran up to the line and then jumped up and threw it over to Austin Hooper. I think it was like a goal line type play. That was pretty impressive versus the Packers on Thursday. So salute to him for that. Derrick Henry has shown that, as we've mentioned, is one of those top guys outside the QB position. And impressive how the Titans continue to find new ways to use him. And then another guy that's been very impressive this year, even with all the mess around him still, Devontae Adams, who quick note is a new addition to my fantasy team. Let's look at DJ for that. Devontae had a game, his overtime game winner was a very impressive play where they had a bunch formation where they were shifted over to like the left hash line where the ball was at. They had a bunch on the right side. Devontae was at the top of it. And again, this corner route was kind of led inside at first. He started off, he lined up outside the hash, faded inside and got pretty much to the left hash. And then I guess I couldn't quite see. They didn't have the all 22. But I guess he made a read on whatever corner was in front of him and dashed back outside to the opposite corner. And when he did that, he had separation. He had a whole 20 yards around him. Derek doing the ball, and he walked into the end zone. He was talking at Pat Surtain after that. He was saying Pat is not there yet. That's the ways to go and all of that. But Devontae showed yet again why he's still that guy eating in the mess that the Raiders have been this year. So salute to him for that. Hope we get a whole lot more of that going forward. And salute him there. So so definitely some great plays. And then the best celebrations. Josh Palmer, we mentioned as a rising receiver for the Chargers, had a nice peacock touchdown. The first touchdown versus the Chiefs before it all fell apart. He got in the end zone and did. I don't want to call it a Buddha. He got down, crossed his legs, put his hands up, some kind of meditation type thing that was cool to see. So that I want to salute him for that. From the Niners had 2. Devo got in the end zone, did a nice dance. He was doing something. He was doing his little whatever kind of dance. That was cool to see. And then Brandon Ayuk did a little salsa dance. He got the end zone, was doing his dance in there, and that was nice also. So great things from the Niners. And then lastly, Alec, your Black King, Travis Kelce. One of his touchdowns going into the end zone. Did a little Deion high step, had his hand in his head, and was high stepping into the end zone. And those are always fun to see. He always
the little LT like flick too, where you like flick the ball.
Yeah, and then again, that always stings versus when you do that against the team from that notable player. So definitely salute him for that. So best celebrations were good. And the last thing from me, best fits. Tyler Taylor had a nice fit. It was like a light gray. He had a dark gray outfit on as his base. Nice like a suit type shirt on. So some flare trousers that were real nice. They had like a cargo design, had nice pocket, like cargo type pockets on it that were real cool, real big pockets all alongside of it. But still had like a dress style design to it, even still. But that was the base. It was all like in a dark gray. He also had, as I kind of have on now, like a puffer on that was gray at his base. That had a bunch of like multicolors, like green and red and orange, all kind of flowing through it as well. That all looked real nice. Tyler Taylor is known as one of the better dressed guys in the league and showed out this week. So salute to him for that. Frank Clark, one of the Chiefs guys, going in versus the Chargers here in LA. Had an LA tight fit on. He was just a real somewhat basic. It was just a black shirt. He had like some white, like cream tight pants with the black chucks on his feet. That just looked fitting for coming in playing versus LA. So salute to him for that. And then lastly, Marcus Allen for the Steelers. I'm not supposed to shout them out too much, but there's one time I'll shout them out. Marcus Allen had a black and white shiesty mask on. I like pointing out the shiesty, the balaclava mask and all of that, as well as a black puffer, some nice black pants, and some off-white sneakers on that all together look real cool. So that's all of them for that. If I had to pick one, I guess I'll pick Tyrod Taylor. As I mentioned, him being one of the better guys in the league. And yeah, shout out to all those guys. I'm across the board for all my hyperbole stuff, for all that they've been putting on. So cool stuff there. But now passing it back to you, Alec, who do you have for HIMVP this week?
I was gonna say, I think that's the first. There was no Amiri hat or jacket.
No Amiri this time. No Amiri. I might have missed it, to be honest, because I didn't see all the brands for what everybody had on. But no Amiri this week. So salute to them for switching it up.
Yeah, for sure. At number one, I got Patrick Mahomes. Nothing special, just 329 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's normal week for Mahomes, but
in the office.
It was a good game and great finish. Obviously, they had the comeback win.
Correct.
The last drive. Tony Pollard, I got on here. He had 80 rushing yards, 109 receiving, and 2 touchdowns receiving.
He's number one now in the offense.
He's been balling. I think really they should use him as a number one and Zeke more as like the goal line back, the short yardage back, because he's clearly more explosive and great as far as pass catching. So he should get more of the reps, but it seems like it's still going to be closer to a 50-50 split. But in that Vikings game, he showed even more so why you should be utilizing him more.
Now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just is what it is. But, yeah, salute to both of them because Zeke still finds ways to put on good performances still as well.
Absolutely. 3 on here, your boy you just traded for, Devontae Adams, had 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, the game-winning touchdown. And pretty much he's still the only bright spot. Josh Jacobs has been good too, but he's been one of the only bright spots for the Raiders this season. So they got to be fake happy for a week. So salute to Devontae for that. Travis Kelce, 115 yards, another 3 touchdown game.
Right.
Most dominant tight end. I'm hearing more of the best tight end ever discussions again between him and Gronk and that kind of thing. He's elite. What more can you say? And then last on here, I had a defensive player. I had Micah Parsons on here.
Yeah.
Leading that defensive front for the Cowboys that torched the Vikings offensive line and had Kirk Cousins seeing ghosts and just the Cowboys defense in general. They've been one of the best, if not the best, defensive units this year. So had to give them their credit there.
Absolutely. So definitely fun things ahead. Great performances from those guys and all of that. My question that was sparked just by what you just said about that defense is we already had our Super Bowl predictions and all that before the season and all that kind of stuff. We had our rankings and all that. But aside from that, just from what you've seen recently, What Super Bowl matchup would you like to see from just all the guys that performed best recently?
What I'd like to see, I would like to see either Niners Chiefs or Cowboys Chiefs. I think those are the two best teams in the NFC. The Niners and the Cowboys. I think also the Dolphins would be fun in the Super Bowl because their offense is very explosive.
Correct.
Between those two teams in the NFC or the Chiefs and the Dolphins in the AFC, I think those teams would be fun to watch. Bills, yeah, but
I don't fully want to call the Bills frauds.
Yeah, I don't think they're frauds.
No, but I do think they're going to come up just short yet again this season.
Yeah.
And I guess the hot take is I think it's just because of the inconsistency of Josh Allen and seeing the mistakes that he.
I'll let you finish that. I just have a response to that.
Just as I pointed out, there have been, while he has had great highs, there's also been a lot of times where he's got too comfortable or whatever the case and made the wrong play when he's needed most. And that's kind of how things have gone, I guess, going way back, just the history of the Bills. And we all know their history of in the past and things. But just looking at it also just right now, Josh Allen, as great as he is, he's a top 2 quarterback, if you want to say. He's a top 2 MVP guy and all that kind of stuff. But there have also been moments where you look at him and you're like, why did you do that? And I think having situations like that are going to be what deter this Bills squad as they hope to get over the hump this year.
I do agree with that to an extent that his decision making sometimes, like in crunch time, has been questionable, and that's why I had questions in previous years, like if he really was him, like if he really was that guy. I think some of that has been put to bed for me, but I also think the struggles that we've seen of late is he was borderline like going to miss the rest of the season with the UCL injury. So I think that has affected and made some of the easy throws that have been easy for him in the past, like not as easy. I think he is still dealing with that, as Herbert's probably still dealing with the rib injury. But I think can like forget sometimes that he's dealing with like a major injury to his throwing arm as well too. So I think that's affected him the last few weeks, because I mean I can see like on my fantasy team, like he was putting up 35 for me. It's been like last week was like 15. That kind of like, so he hasn't been the same guy the last 3 weeks or so. He has a chance to get right for sure against the Lions, but I think it's more so going to be about his health. And I think some of the decision making that will come into play, like in the playoffs, like you said. I think they'll come up a little bit short against a guy like a Mahomes, or maybe against a Dolphins team. But I think more so now he hasn't quite been 100% the last few weeks.
Yeah, agree. So we'll see how they fix that. But yeah, to the Super Bowl things, I think it's the same thing. I think the Cowboys get there, could potentially get there and lose.
It feels weird to say because the Cowboys are usually the Cowboys, but they're kind of fun. They're kind of fun this year.
They're a fun team to watch. I don't know if they'll win it when they get there. They might be an all-time great collapse at the end, but they have a chance with that defense.
Stephen A is ready for it.
Yeah, we see what the defenses can do, and we that defense definitely can take them all the way. So they definitely could get there. And then the Chiefs seem like they're on their way yet again. So those two seem to be the top dogs. I'm interested to see. I'll leave it at that, but I'm interested to see what other folks say as potential teams they want to see get there right now. So yeah, fun stuff there. But 2 teams and all of that, just looking at what we're at with this week. We're now here, Thanksgiving week. There's a lot of good stuff going on. Now going into our quick picks to end the episode. A lot of good games coming up this week. Should be a little bit better than last week's games. I'm excited to see how these things play out. Some good matchups, or some decent matchups, I'll say. Thanksgiving night. Excited to see how those play, as well as Sunday and going on. So jumping into it, here we are. As we also will do, adding a couple questions as well as we go along with it. But yeah. Week 12, Thanksgiving, quick picks. First off, Bills at Lions. Bills at 9 points.
I got the Bills. I've got a feeling like this game could be closer than it should be, but I got the Bills.
Yeah. Is this a bounce back game? To your point about Josh, is this a bounce back game for Josh Allen?
I think so. I think this Lions defense can be taken advantage of. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. Moving on, Giants at Cowboys. Cowboys at 9.5 points.
Definitely the Cowboys. I think the Giants are like that third fraudulent NFC team to me. Well, my hat's off to them. Like they've been ahead of schedule as far as winning the games they have this year, but I think it's going to start to fall off a bit.
Right.
And the Cowboys defense we've talked about is very elite. So I think they're going to have their way with Daniel Jones and them. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree, Cowboys. And to your point about the success, low-key might be a bad thing for the Giants because they're trying to figure out just moving on from Daniel Jones and things like that. They could have been fooled if things got gone too well, just really signing him long-term and then being stuck potentially if things, as we see now, things coming back to reality for them too. So they also just lost Wonder Robinson, who was already out, came back for 2 weeks, and then towards ACL is going to be gone again. Tough things there. But, yeah, the Cowboys definitely will get it done. But I will ask this, though, while other guys are out, they still have a great backfield with Saquon doing his thing. Who will feast more to a Thanksgiving thing? Who will feast more on Thanksgiving, Saquon or Zeke and Pollard?
Yeah, I do think it's Zeke and Pollard. I mean, obviously they have the unfair advantage because it's two guys too, but
I guess more touchdowns, I guess, to clarify what feast will mean.
It definitely still Zeke and Pollard because I think this Cowboys defense is, while the run defense hasn't been as good as the pass defense, I think they're going to be able to handle this Giants offense because they're kind of one-dimensional at this point. While Daniel Jones has some rushing ability too, he's got I guess Richie James to throw to. I think he's a little banged up too.
Still right.
What is that?
Slayton's, I guess.
Slayton's been decent for them, but so I think they're going to be trying to get it to Saquon, but he had 15 rushes for 22 yards or something last week, and I think it's going to be similar against the Cowboys. So
got it. I'm the same way. Zeke and Pollard have been going crazy the last few weeks, so it's hard to say. Otherwise, it would take a miracle for Saquon to go off a little bit more. But definitely rooting for him, and I'm just happy that he's
original game though. So sometimes weird things happen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's possible, but I'm leaning the same way as you. But again, I also just wanted to say again, I'm just happy that he's back and Saquon's healthy again this year because how he was falling out. There was debates about if he's going to be the next Gurley and stuff like that. It was tough for the last year. So glad that he's back as one of the top dogs. So good things there. Moving on, Pats at Vikings. Vikings at 2.5 points.
I like the Pats. I like the Pats defense as 2 or 3 behind the Cowboys right now, how they're playing. And I do think the Vikings have good offensive pieces, but that offensive line is a little banged up, as we saw against the Cowboys. So I think I'm gonna go with the Pats here.
I like the pick. I could see that happening, but I think that that Vikings offense is going to get back on track at least a little bit, and we'll do better than at least the 3 points that the Jets did last week, and find a way to get this victory at home.
They had 3 points last week too.
All right, clearly the Vikings home field advantage isn't much, and folks people there, so it's very possible for the Pats to get the victory as you pointed out. But I think Justin Jefferson has a solid game, and we see him feasting on Thursday night. So good stuff there. We also in the backfield, there's some good running backs in this game. So again, like in the Giants Cowboys game, who will feast more in this game, Rhamondre or Dalvin?
I like Rhamondre. There. I think in the rushing and passing game.
I think Dalvin can actually do that. So I guess leaning with the Vikings.
I hope so for fantasy, but
I think Dalvin can do that. So interesting to see. I'm definitely going to be following that there. Fun stuff there. And those are the Thanksgiving games. Moving on to Sunday, Broncos at Panthers. Broncos at 2.5 points.
It's funny because we talked about the match. I didn't even think about the actual game, though. Both these teams are bad. But I'm going to go with the Broncos because that defense is the one thing that keeps them afloat. So I'm going to go with the Broncos.
Panthers defense is solid too, and I'm actually, because they're at home, going to take the Panthers. Even with the quarterback play being all over the place. I don't even know who's starting this week. Is PJ starting this week?
I think it's Darnold.
Darnold is. So hopefully our USC boy can put on a decent performance there. I think we'll do enough in this potentially low-scoring game to get them over the hump. It's going to be definitely a defensive game. If you like defense, there'll be plenty of it. To the point about Sam Darnold and others, I guess the question I'll ask too, more disappointing huge situation, the Broncos or the Panthers?
I think it's the Broncos still, with paying him $250 million. The expectations were that he was going to at least make this Broncos team a playoff contender.
Right.
And it doesn't look like they're going to be sniffing the playoffs this year.
Correct.
So, yeah, I think it's them.
He was good going in. Has been playing bad, but even still, I think there's still some room in here to at least to salvage the season at least a little bit. Not the playoffs, but if they can turn it around, at least tease for the future. Maybe if you could just have at least some decent games, I think it's possible for Russ to have some decent games still.
You think would that be good? Would that be good for the team if he fake has some good games?
No, but just in regards to QB situation, I think for Russ, I think there's room to improve at least. For the Broncos QBs, I don't see any improvement for any of these guys, and they are just what they are. Also, they've had 3 or 4 now that have all been just basically complete swings and misses. The plan wasn't fully to tank with this squad. They were trying to find a QB to get them moving back in the right direction. But every QB they tried has not worked. They had Cam Newton in there last year. They had Sam Darnold, who's came and went with injuries and is now playing again, as we mentioned. Baker Mayfield they brought in, hopefully trying to get this team back in the right direction. BJ Walker has shown flashes, but then came back to reality as well. There's all these quarterbacks they've tried have not panned out as they've hoped really at all. So, yeah, I think because there have been so many misses that the Panther situation at QB has been much worse than the Broncos, even though the Broncos with Russ has been sad so far this year.
Yeah. The Broncos are tied to him for 4 more years.
6.
Yeah. I guess that was an extension too. Yeah, you're right. So
yeah, so
that's why I think it's worse. You're tied to this man unless you make a trade. And you just traded for him.
It's only year 1 though. Russ is a decent QB, so there's chance that he can turn around a little bit.
He's only getting older
from these Panthers guys, so it is what it is. But so yeah, that's that for that game. Moving on, Bucks at Browns. Bucks at 3.5 points.
Bucks.
Yeah, Bucks. Ravens at Jags. Ravens at 4 points.
Ravens. I've seen a couple people already picking Jags.
Yeah, I can't go that far, but I understand because they haven't dominated as hoped. But I'm going Ravens for sure.
Yeah.
Texans at Dolphins. Dolphins at 13 points.
Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins. Bears at Jets. Jets at 4.5.
The Jets have been the better team, but I don't understand why they're going with Mike White and not Flacco.
Hating on elite QBs, man, it was crazy. I don't get it.
Mike White actually has shown flashes for them in the past, but Flacco started this season too, so I thought they would just throw him in now.
Maybe something else is going on there that we don't know about, so it is what it is.
Yeah, but going with Mike White here, I don't love. I guess if Justin Fields isn't playing, I'm going with the Jets.
I think that's what the spread's where it's at because he might be out.
I guess regardless, I go Jets because Justin Fields has been playing amazingly and they're still losing. So I'll go with the Jets.
Yeah, if Justin's out and it turned to Trevor Siemian, I think I don't think the Bears
even worse. Yeah.
So I'm going Jets as well. But then kind of going back to the question we asked earlier, did Zach deserve to be benched?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. You got to answer those questions better than that. You got to be a better leader of those men.
Yeah.
And understand the position that you hold. So he deserves to be benched, and hopefully you learn from the situation.
Yeah. I think if he handled the question better, it might have been more of a question of did he deserve it?
I mean, he had that bad game, but you could say if he showed that he understood what he did and will look to bounce back, he was starting. But because he wanted to point the finger elsewhere or like to act like it was really his fault to begin with, he has to understand what he did. So
some accountability.
Absolutely. So sad thing there. But moving on, Bengals at Titans. Bengals at 1.5 points.
Yeah, this might be the best game.
Potentially.
It might be the best game as far as the competitive edge. You see, the line is at -1.5, like you said.
Right.
I will go. Yeah, Jamar is potentially coming back. This is a really good game. This one is a toss-up. I'm going to go Titans at home. They are a well-coached team with Vrabel. They're not as dynamic as the Bengals are.
Mm-hmm.
But, I like the Titans at home. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm actually going to go with the Bengals. Usually I go obviously the Bengals and all of that. And I thought you were going to lean that way because that's your team. But I think with Jamar back in the fold potentially, Joe's been waiting on him. I think Joe even gave the report that Jamar is going to be back himself. He was like, "Yeah, Jamar's going to be back. I've been waiting." So I think being able to utilize him again, though T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and the other guys have been useful, and I think Joe Mixon is going to be out this game as well.
He might.
Even without one, but getting Jamar back, I think that Joe can get this victory in a playoff rematch that surely is going to be fun to watch. So yeah, I'm taking the Bengals in that. But to that, better playoff chances going forward, Bengals or Titans. Just as you can make a bigger push.
I like the Bengals to make a farther run. I think both these teams make the playoffs though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think the same thing. Yeah, I like the Titans too, and could see what they could do, but I think Tannehill's deficiencies are going to yet again be the X factor there. So it'll be what it is.
They're going to stack the box on Derrick Henry, of course.
And there's nothing else you can do after that. So, oh well. While I will say though, I do like Treylon Burks.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, there's potential there that he could be X factor. But we saw when they had AJ Brown last year that even having him didn't quite do it. Right. So.
And Julio, remember we thought they're going to be an all-star offense.
Yeah, all that fell apart real quick. So, oh well. But moving on to Julio's former team, the Falcons. Falcons at Commanders. Commanders at 4.5 points.
Hey, give me Heineke, man. Give me the Commanders. They gave him the starting nod. He deserves it.
I agree. And to that, more surprising team, Falcons or Commanders?
Commanders for me. I think both these teams were kind of in similar spots expectation-wise for the season. Did you thought the Falcons had higher expectations?
I thought the Falcons had less. I thought the Falcons were completely tanking, and the plan was to Mariota was just trying to keep them afloat, another QB and all that kind of stuff. They've been at least decent this year. So the Commanders, we had known them to be solid. The defense was good. Chase Young was out to start the season, so expectations were tempered a little bit. But I thought they'd at least be decent. I didn't think the Falcons would be decent at all, and they've been a respectable team so far this year. So I say Falcons.
Well, that's where we differ because I thought both these teams were going to be bad. Like I thought the Commanders were going to be close to how bad I thought the Falcons were going to be too. But so yeah, the Commanders been more surprising because they're above 500 and
they've had some big wins also.
Rattled off a few good wins. Yeah, beat the Eagles too, and they play. I'm glad they are going with Heineke because it seemed like they like to play with him and play for him as a QB. So
people don't like playing with Wentz, so that's another story. Yeah, gotta keep watching that.
Trending in the right direction.
Yeah. So the other interesting things to watch there. Going to be another fun game. Moving on, the Sean Payton Bowl. Chargers at Cardinals. Chargers at 4.5 points.
I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
I'm gonna go with the Chargers as well. And it's called the Sean Payton Bowl because a report came out this week that Sean Payton is potentially eyeing an NFL return, and that the top two teams on his list right now are the Chargers and Cardinals, which I think was intentional with this being the week that it was. And also with both situations being very similar, both teams having a very promising young quarterback, some decent weapons on the outside, and all of that, but being unable to fully get over the hump. With their coaches constantly being put into question, with Kingsbury with the Cardinals and Brandon Staley, as we discussed earlier, with the Chargers. So with that being the case, which situation looks more enticing if you're Sean Payton, the Chargers or the Cardinals?
That's a good question. I would say the Chargers because of Justin Herbert and believing that he can potentially be a top 3 quarterback in the league, something like that. I think the upside is there higher than it is for Kyler, for me personally. And I think they have a couple pieces offensively and defensively that will still remain there. And I think that's the best situation. It's maybe because I was going to talk about the division. Like the divisions are kind of similar because like the Rams and Cardinals are bad, but the Seahawks have been solid and the 49ers have been solid, and same like AFC West, Chargers and Chiefs, and then Raiders and Broncos have been bad. So like I think division wise, maybe slightly less competitive. You're pretty much just going against the Chiefs. Yeah, I think I'd lean Chargers over, and you're in Los Angeles too. Arizona's not a bad place to be either, but
yeah, I think everything in that points to the Chargers is a better situation, which is why hopefully Brandon Staley realizes the spot that he has and really tries to take advantage of this and make the most of what he has there. But the situation with the Cardinals is still pretty good as well. We've seen that Kyler does have some very high upside also, and if he can get more in sync rather than barking at Cliff Kingsbury, as he's done a couple of times, having a coach he can turn to and trust to make the right calls, I think that will definitely could take them a long way. So yeah, both work out for him. I see why he's eyeing both, and interested to see if either one he becomes available for him to even go to this offseason. So yeah, good stuff there. Moving on, Raiders at Seahawks. Seahawks at 3.5 points.
Seahawks.
I guess I'll ask it, but I guess you already answered it. But better performance, Derek Carr or Geno?
Geno, yeah.
Geno, yeah.
Surprisingly, I'm not picking no Raiders.
Yeah, I understood. Yeah, it's not even. I'm with you. Moving on, Rams at Chiefs. Chiefs at 14.5 points.
Yeah, Chiefs by 3 scores at least. I think.
To that point, do the Chiefs starters even play in the fourth quarter?
This was my question. I don't think so. To be honest, I don't know who the backup quarterback is for the Chiefs, but he should shine his cleats up.
To the fans that get technical, they might play one series in the fourth quarter to start it off, but after that, no. I think the Chiefs will be sat down, and I think we'll see some. I don't know. We'll see Kelsey on the sideline dancing and the home plays or whatever. We won't see them in the game too much after that. So yeah, at home also, yeah, they might just send them home. Hey, go ahead and go home after the third. It's all right. We got it from here. So yeah, definitely Chiefs win there. Moving on, Saints at Niners. Niners at 9.5 points.
Niners, yeah.
I agree as well. And then with that, an interesting thing that people kind of forgot about, the Niners weren't committed to Jimmy G. Trey Lance was the plan this year.
They got lucky they retained him.
Around, has got them back into position as they hoped they would be. So with that being the case, should the Niners fully recommit to Jimmy G going forward?
I mean, if you weren't confident in him before, I don't think this changes it, because we've seen him do this before with a good team around him in the 49ers. They probably come up just short again. I think, because I think they're one of the 2 best teams in the NFC, so they have a shot at making a Super Bowl again. But we've seen him make a Super Bowl before, so I don't only thing he could do to give you more confidence is win the Super Bowl at this point. So I don't think it really changes their mindset. They're lucky that they retained him with Trey Lance going down.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think this really changes anything unless they do win the Super Bowl.
Got it. I think they should fully recommit to him, because also the guys around you, Debo and those guys won't want to win now. McCaffrey obviously is a win now guy. Kittle's a win now guy. Having to potentially reset next year with Trey Lance in that backfield, I don't think is the right move. And you want to continue the momentum or whatever they could do to however the season goes. So I think with Jimmy G for at least the next year or two should still be the plan. And if you want to keep kind of like how the I guess
it's not a 1-year deal, right?
I think it's right now just a 1-year deal, which is why my question recommitting to him, so potentially signing him for another year or two. And while it's not fully the same thing, but in the way that the Packers have Rodgers right now still, but have Jordan Love sitting there in the tuck for 3 or 4 years now it's been. They do the same thing with Trey Lance. As Trey Lance, when he was in show, he wasn't ready yet. Let him sit there and really get his skills as great as possible. And then when it's time to fully put him in, he can do that. But for right now, with the team that's ready to win now, Jimmy G, while he may not fully get there, he's you close enough. So I think you should stick with him for the time being. And I would say, yes, fully commit to him right now. So Jimmy G has found a way to stay afloat there on a team where he doesn't have to do a whole lot. You got just dumb it down to McCaffrey, dumb it down to to Debo, dumb it down to Ayuk, dumb it down to Kittle. You we don't need to do Mahomes. You don't gotta be Dak, or you don't gotta be none of that. Just get you guys the ball and leave it there. So I think that works for them right now. So fun things to watch with that. Moving on, Packers at Eagles. Eagles at 7 points.
At Eagles too. I'm gonna say the Eagles just because the Packers don't really inspire confidence with the way they've played to this point in the season. It's been nice to see Christian Watson, like they finally looks like they found something in a receiver, but I'm gonna go with the Eagles here. The Packers have just kind of been a mess this year.
Correct. I think the Eagles, while they have been up and down a little bit, I think this is another solid performance from them on Sunday night. They like the big stages a little bit, and I think can put on a good performance there. So I'm going with the Eagles there. Then lastly, Monday, Steelers at Colts. Colts at 2.5 points.
That's a gross Monday night game.
Very much so. I think the thought was you guys are gonna be so tired from watching all the Thursday games and all the football and all of that by Monday you won't even care. So here's something for the background for you.
Yes, somebody should have been flexed to Monday or something.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
I'll go with Jeff Monday. In the
Jeff
Colts.
Monday for the win. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that. With that being the home game, Steelers have been decent this year, but so have the Colts, and I think the Colts, with some newfound energy with Jeff Monday, as we call him this week, in the building, can get that victory. And to that question, to them both bouncing back, the run game is benefiting from it. Najee Harris has gotten back in the fold, and Jonathan Taylor has been looking pretty good as well. Great performance between the two, Najee or JT on Monday night.
Good question. I think I like Jonathan Taylor as a running back a little bit better. Some of the clips of Najee, I know they were obviously lowlights, but some of the clips I was seeing in previous weeks were him missing holes and so I'm more keen on Jonathan Taylor as a running back. So I'm gonna say Jonathan Taylor there, and Jeff Monday is clearly looking to establish the run. Now that he's head coach, he's like, we're gonna go to our best player. Now that
I feel like Jeff is, because he wasn't a coach before this, so he doesn't fully know. So he's doing what any Madden guy would do or whatever.
Exactly.
He's
not wrong. I'm looking at Jonathan Taylor.
He's doing what any guy that they pull off the couch would do. Okay, we have Jonathan Taylor. Let's give him the ball. Okay, Micah Pittman's decent. We'll do a little scheme to get him the ball, but for the most part, JT, you're getting the rock 25 times, and we'll figure it out from there. So
he was like, enough of this Ellinger noise. I'm gonna bring the veteran quarterback back.
And do what you need to do, and we'll leave it at that. So I agree that JT's a better performance, but Najee has had a good bounce back. They were throwing out Trent Richardson comparisons for half a second.
The film wasn't looking great for a couple of weeks.
He's ducking those allegations right now, but it was sad. But he's back in better performances and all of that. So good stuff across the board there. That's all of our quick picks and all of that. Definitely some good discussions across the board here. Another good episode. I was thinking of we will. I have some NBA things to get to, as you guys know. Light the beam, light the beam. That's all I'm going to say for right now. But we'll get to our NBA stuff in another episode shortly. We haven't talked a whole lot about NBA yet this season outside of our predictions, but we'll return for that. Within the next week, for sure, we'll have an episode out for you guys discussing all the NBA things going on right now. We'll have some HIMVP type things to discuss potentially, as well as all going on with the Lakers, Kings, and all the stuff that are notable as we kind of be joking about and all of that. So we'll return to that. But for right now, our info stuff is done. We thank you guys for tuning back in. Appreciate all the love you guys have been showing us online everywhere. Any last words, Alec?
Favorite Thanksgiving food?
Mac and cheese.
Damn, I was gonna say the same thing.
What are we doing here?
I was gonna say the same thing. I'm actually making mine for Thanksgiving.
Here's the real
I make a pretty good one. So.
Here's the real question: thoughts on turkey? Overrated.
Get out of here! Get out of here, buddy.
It's solid, but everyone says it was for years was the go-to. Come on now, dry ass bird.
It's kind of like a drier version of chicken, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's good. Like a really good one is fine. Throw some gravy on it too. Like you gotta mix it with other things, and it's cool. But by itself, get out of here.
I have a hot take comparison just for the sake of hot takes. Ready for this?
Okay.
It's like it reminds like In-N-Out. It's like In-N-Out.
Whoa. Whoa.
And I never shared this with you. In and out, low key is overrated to me.
Whoa. Come on, you from LA too.
The fries ain't that great.
I'm fine with that. I like animal style though.
You have to get the animal style, the secret menu to get it right. The burgers are solid, but if you don't know the special way to order it, you can just order. Let me just go and get a cheeseburger by itself and get it how you want. You have to make sure I get the extra onion,
you can get a regular double.
If you don't order with all your special extras on there, just order it by itself.
It's a conversation for a different day.
Yeah, we'll come back to it, but I'll sneak this at the 1:30 mark of the episode. I'll sneak this in. In-N-Out is overrated, and turkey's overrated as well. So yeah,
I like that comparison.
It came to mind when you talked about how you had to add all the extras to it. I had the same thought about In-N-Out. So I'll sneak that in at the end. And yeah, I'm ready for the smoke. I have that debate. But yeah, good stuff all across the board. Clearly excited for more to come with the show. We'll have some more guests on. A guy that we've talked to a few times now on the show, Jake Gold. We definitely want to bring back on to talk about boxing. There's some big fights coming up. So Jake, we'll definitely talk to you soon, as well as some others that are definitely on the way. So good stuff here. Again, follow us online on IG and TikTok at section.300. Follow us on Twitter at section sports. Follow me at just AG. Follow Alec Foster on all platforms. Appreciate all the love. A lot of good stuff coming to you guys. Excited for everything. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm excited for all the Christmas stuff on the way also. And yeah, we'll see you guys again soon, man. Appreciate it. Peace.
Deuces.